Are we live yet? Sweet.
Well,
Soft open.
What, am I supposed to say something?
What?
We're live.
No, you're not supposed to say anything.
We're live. We're
Yeah,
live.
yeah,
We're
you're
live.
live.
Cool. I'll start doing actual show shit when
This
we
is,
retweet the link.
this is the cold open right now.
Does it show viewership here? Yeah, I guess it does.
It should, I think. What do you mean, welcome to FanDuel? Get the.
Oh,
Come
we're on the intro.
Is it showing us now?
No, you guys are looking. No, I'm saying like
Let's do it.
I was reading for the show notes.
Copy link.
I mean, just what a high quality production we run over
Yeah,
here.
pretty much.
We're really doing it.
Is it showing us now?
No, you guys are looking. No, I'm saying let's do it. I was reading for the show notes. What a high quality production. We're really doing it.
All right. Have anybody in there, Matt?
Three.
Other than us?
Howdy.
3 if it's us. 3.
Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and start then.
Let's get after it.
Oh. What's today? It is September 5th. You are watching the Down East Sports Network College Football Show. I am Jacob Miller's Paul Phillips. No, this is a college football show, but given some news earlier in the week, going to dedicate this one to the Gaudreaus.
Hell yeah.
Big Johnny hockey guy.
Guys, plural.
Yeah, with
Love
huge
me some
fan of
Johnny
Johnny. So prayers and thoughts out to his family. Unfortunately, we can't bless them with a good week of college football. This is a weak slate, to say the least. We got some of our reoccurring topics. We got a new segment that I'm going to hit you with.
Yeah, I have no clue what this
you have
segment is.
no idea what it is.
He told me that it's
It's a surprise.
We'll see how I deal with said surprise.
Little recap. Go through each of our pick six. We'll pause parlay. And then we'll end it with the ECU game. Go ahead and start with our little week one cleanup. What's the first game we got on there?
Florida State, Boston College.
Yeah.
Woof.
Golly.
Woof.
Honestly, it makes me happy. I had so much
Florida
fun watching
State's
that game.
such a joke.
They're terrible.
They're not good. If you want to beat the Seminoles this year, just run the ball up the throat as many times as humanly possible.
Have a pulse. That's all you need.
They might be the softest team in the Power Four.
They're terrible.
They look like they don't want to play. The middle of the field running the football. Georgia Tech did it to them, and then Boston College between Castellanos and I can't think of the running back there. They just torched them up the middle. Their first drive, I think, took the first quarter.
Basically, Florida State had a minute and some change, I think, of
Yeah.
possession in the first quarter, and I think they had 4 yards into the second.
I think Boston College had more rushing yards than Florida State had total yards.
Oh, they did.
That's impressive.
I'm fairly certain they did. At least I know that it was like 220 something to 40. To 20. No, they had. I know Florida State had 21 yards, I believe, and Boston College had at least 200 rushing yards. Like they just, I mean, it was nothing short of a demolition. Just the entire game up front on both sides of the ball for Boston College. They made Florida State look like a JV team. Like it was.
Yeah.
It was fascinating to watch. Just this level of domination from Boston College over what should be a perennial powerhouse in the sport of college football, and they're just.
I don't know where you fix the problem.
Special
Florida
case.
State. I can't remember who they play this week, but
do you fix the problem? Like, is that a fixable?
They might go 4-8
this season. It's not a fixable thing. Long term, they'll be fine, but this season, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything that they can do to resurrect this to anything resembling any of their expectations.
They
can't run the ball. Their quarterback can't really pass the ball. They couldn't stop Boston College.
It's bad.
all around just plan Z for Florida State right now. It's worst case scenario.
Yeah, they're. I mean, it's going to be everything in their power to make a bowl game this year.
Oh, it's going to take a lot for them to make a bowl game. I think just and they could turn not turn their season around, but they could resurrect something to where they're a halfway competitive team. But I see them it's going to be a struggle for them to make a bowl game this year.
Yeah.
From what we've seen so far, it's a struggle for them to win a game. But they'll figure it out at some point. They got some games on their schedule that should be wins. I think Georgia Tech, obviously, we're high on that.
Yeah.
And Boston College, I feel like we were just kind of riding the wave of Georgia Tech there, and then it ended up working. But at some point, something's got to change with this team. They'll win some games, but I think it's not going to be more than some.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the chaos is of Florida State this year.
That game's good. That might be the game of the year, and in all the wrong ways. That game's going to be so much fun to watch for no reason.
And, I know most of Florida State Twitter probably wants Mike Norvell fired. I don't think he's on the hot seat even remotely.
No,
not after.
He shouldn't.
Not
be.
after. What do they have? 13 wins last year.
Yeah, they went 13-0 last year, and then
they got the brakes beat off of them in the Sugar Bowl
with none of their players.
Which I guess they're still opted out.
They opted out of this season. I think they opted out too far in advance.
It's going to make recruiting really difficult for them. Oh yeah, which is intriguing
because it's one thing.
This is a transfer heavy team.
Exactly, it's one thing. Like Florida State, we've seen them in their like these last few years when they've been not a very good football team before last year, and they're still getting this talent into their program. But coming off of how their season ended last year, where they go undefeated and miss out on the playoff, get absolutely ran through by Georgia, and then come out like this, it's not just like, okay, like we've seen Florida State have slow starts in recent years, but not have slow starts while also being the laughingstock of college football. Yeah. So that's usually reserved for another team in their state in the last few years. But
if you're Miami, you got to be pretty happy right now.
Oh my God, yeah, because the only two teams that are ever worth a damn in that state, aside from every so often UCF, they both stink.
Yeah,
I mean, terrible football teams.
Florida State's awful. I guess we're in the early 2000s.
And Florida State, I think, has the opposite thing that Florida and Florida State kind of have opposite situations going on, where Florida State's just not a bought-in football team. They don't look like they care. And then Florida, they're a team that I think cares, and they have a bunch of talent on that team. They just have a supreme leader that doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know what to do on a football field or on the sidelines of a football field. And so there's no hope for them, I don't think, until Napier's gone. And then Florida State, this is not at all the Mike Norvell problem, I don't think. I mean, maybe it is from a
buy-in standpoint.
Exactly, but from he's one of the premier coaches in college football, and I don't think there's really any debate about that.
Yeah.
There's just, I don't know what is going on behind the scenes of this football program, but something's got to change, and I don't think it's something that can be fixed this year.
I think this is kind of a lost season. At this point, you just got to get the ball moving in the right direction.
Yeah, which they can't do on the football field.
Which is not something you want to say heading into week 2 of college football.
Yeah, no. When you're through week 1 and you're 0-2, that's not good, especially when you're Florida State.
Yeah, a team that's talked about as a playoff team. I know
exactly.
You were high on them.
I was
higher on them.
I was high based on how low I kind of thought the rest of the ACC would be, but now they're one of the low points of the ACC, and so that kind of just contradicts itself. But also, I was right, but with the wrong teams, because I had them in Virginia Tech in my championship game, and
it doesn't look like either of them are going to do much.
No.
Virginia Tech losing to Vanderbilt,
and no matter, Vanderbilt could be a sneaky decent team this year. They're not going to be a bowl team, but they're going to give a few teams some issues. But you can't go out there and do that. I got off topic. They're going to a different game, which I don't think we really need to spend a whole lot of time on. Virginia Tech is not a team that's ready to have the expectations that they were given to start the season. But
I think the biggest takeaway I got from the ACC from week 1 is the fact that it is a one-team conference. I really don't see this team getting more than one playoff bid, given what we've seen so far.
Yeah, it all depends on Louisvle at this point because Miami's going to win the ACC. I think at this point, if we're going ahead and making predictions now, there's obviously plenty. Like
a lot
obviously, NC State had a tough start against Western Carolina, which they ended up figuring out in the fourth quarter. But they're a team that has a hell of an opportunity this weekend, which we'll get to. But they didn't show me that they're ready for to be a real player in this conference, aside from the fact that everyone else kind of stinks aside from Miami and Louisville.
Yeah.
And Clemson is weird, but we could go ahead and dive right into that game if you'd like.
Yeah, we can jump.
That's
Clemson
one of the games on our docket.
Clemson's defense kept them in for a half.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest takeaway, other than Georgia just looks to be on another tier than most of the country.
Which they are. We knew that too.
Yeah, which we knew going in. I still think Clemson has a good defense based on what we saw Saturday. I know the score might not be indicative of that.
Wade Woodhead is going to cause people a bunch of problems. That guy's a freak.
Maffa's looked good.
Yeah. There's bright points in this team for sure. Their season's
a team that got
over.
waxed. I mean, just got laughed off the field by Georgia.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more right with Clemson than there is with a Florida State.
Well, with Florida State, we saw 2 wrongs against Georgia Tech and Boston College. With Clemson, they kind of got ran out of the building by Georgia, which Clemson is not a team, they're not a program that should have that happening to them. But at the same time, I don't think their season is anywhere close to being in danger right now.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be just fine in the ACC.
They're still right there to maybe make a run.
Yeah.
For a conference title game, but something's going to have to change with him. He's going to have to start going to the portal.
I was about to say transfer portal is the
he's going to have to start doing something.
He can't. A college football roster should be the nucleus of it should be as a whole, the main kind of base of your program should be mostly your high school recruits.
Yeah.
And the transfer portal is something that college coaches, at least those high end programs like what Clemson should be, they need to use the transfer portal not to build their entire roster like you see a team out west doing, but
the corner that went to Ohio State from Alabama.
Caleb Downs.
Imagine we're here. We're talking about quarterback issues. Imagine if they'd have got Cam.
Yeah,
this is a completely different team. I'm right there with you. Obviously, Clemson recruits at a high level,
which I don't think that they needed to go away from Klubnik. I think he's going to be just fine. I just think that they could have found more pieces to kind of put around him. But that's the thing, what I was saying with transfer portals, they just need that to use to fill gaps or improve certain position groups. They don't need to go build their entire roster of it like Colorado's doing, for instance. Yeah. But Dabo's 100% refusal is not going to get him anywhere. He's just college football is going to leave him behind if that's the case. If he keeps doing that, he doesn't need to use it much. But
you got in the chat there, bud.
Zach says Clemson can still win the ACC, but Dabo needs to use the transfer portal or he's out.
Correct. Yeah. He's never going to be out. Clemson will never get rid of him. No, he should be the mayor of Clemson, South Carolina. But something's got to change for he's never going to get fired. But for Clemson to be Clemson,
to get back to the level that we expect a Dabo Swinney-led Clemson team to be at.
He's got to catch up with college football.
I also think I saw another chat in there that DJU crapped the bed for a little radio-friendly term. He's awful. Which I think most of us knew. I think we could put that Notre Dame game from the COVID year to bed now. That was a one-time thing. DJU's just not a good quarterback.
You know what's funny? They still lost that game.
Yeah, I know.
But and I tried to give DJ the benefit of the doubt in our season preview episode. We knew he wasn't going to be very good, like anything special, at least going into the season. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt just because he wasn't awful at Clemson. He really wasn't awful at Oregon State either. He had that team, he was at least part of what had that team ranked in, at least I think in the top 15 a season ago. But he's people thought that he was finally going to be in the right system, and I think it's his worst system yet. To be honest,
I heard this week that the fall off from Jordan Travis to DJU was the biggest ACC quarterback fall off since Trevor Lawrence to DJU.
Which that's on that note. What does that say about like Zach said that Dabo might be out? Dabo went 11-2 with DJ as a starting quarterback.
I know.
I mean, let's not forget that Dabo can still coach. He's
one of the best coaches we've seen in the modern era of college football. He just needs to catch up to continue that, to continue that reputation.
Yeah, he's going to get left behind.
As far as coaching talent, he's getting left behind. It's not that he can't coach; it's just that he's choosing not to recruit in the places that he needs to recruit, and it's not a coaching issue whatsoever. It's simply a recruiting issue, I think, for Clemson. And obviously, there's he flat out got not only out talented but out coached against Georgia, but he's also coaching against the far and away, in my opinion, the best coach in the country without a shadow of a doubt.
Nick Saban retiring, I think we can safely say Kirby Smart's.
You could even argue, obviously, Nick Saban is, at least in my opinion, the greatest college football coach of all time, in most people's opinions. But even still, in the last couple of years of his career, you could easily have argued that Kirby was already the best coach in college football. Just people couldn't look past Saban's career as a whole instead of what we were instead of the present day, basically. But Kirby is far and away the premier coach in college football, and he showed it against Clemson, against another very well coached team that just had no answers.
I'm going to move us over to what I think might have been the best game of the weekend. LSU USC standalone game Sunday.
God,
great football
awesome.
Game. Great football
Fantastic football.
Brian Kelly is an ass.
Screw that guy.
He's just not a good person. That seat's getting a little warm there. I know we got an LSU fan in the chat. I think he's about done with Brian Kelly.
Yeah, they're gonna have to start putting that hot seat on a scissor lift.
He's the reason I have them winning less than 9 games. I mean, that's the reason
me too.
I took that team.
Grant Nussmeier proved me way wrong.
He looks like a good quarterback.
He looked very good, at least good enough. I mean, I was right in that he's not going to be Jaden Daniels, but he can sling a rock. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, between him and Miller Moss, we saw a great quarterback matchup.
Oh yeah,
moving the ball all over the field, good throwing, great catch.
Yeah,
number 10 there. That was one of the best catches I've ever seen.
Unbelievable. It was a great weekend for catches.
And his Brian Kelly's post-game press conference, he went in on Nussmeier, which I don't know how you go in with him. I don't remember his stats, but I think threw about 70%, if not higher. Yeah, plenty of yards. Plenty of yards. You'd have thought with his stat line, I think he'd have scored more than 20 points, whatever, or 24 points, whatever they ended up putting up. But he came after him, and he said that his players don't know how to play to win the game at the end. Well, that sounds like a you problem. Brian.
He doesn't know how to coach to win a game at the end. We saw it his entire career at Notre Dame.
He had Georgia on the ropes in 2017 in
absolutely blew it.
And I think he is a little of an overrated coach, but
definitely he's a fantastic recruiter. I think.
Yeah.
He didn't. He's kind of fallen into the Dabo thing where he's a fantastic high school recruiter. Transfer portal is but
I mean,
just because he didn't do anything to bulk up really his defense to the point where I thought that it was going to be a competitive defense.
I mean, LSU is going to go to 1-1 this week. I think they play Nicholls State, so they'll be fine. But it's going to be a tough road. LSU does not have an easy schedule. They got good quarterback play though.
Yeah,
the defense does look improved. We'll hit on that in a little bit.
I just don't think it's
both
improved
those teams,
enough.
But
I mean, Nussmeier 30 of 39 for 308 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick.
Yeah, it's a good game. You'd have thought he'd
fantastic stat line. It's like what we saw in the Oregon-Idaho game where Oregon looked terrible, but Dylan Gabriel looked like a Heisman contender. He looked like, which I mean he is, but I mean he was throwing it all over the place. But they just couldn't score.
Another story of week 1 is a lot of big powers
A lot of
getting off to slow starts. Michigan had a slow start.
Yep.
Georgia, so to speak, had a slow start in the first half.
Yeah, in that first half of
that USC game was 0-0, I think, through the first quarter.
Exactly. I mean, NC State struggled with Western Carolina. Not that they're a power, but they're supposed to be a player in the ACC. I mean, and like obviously Oregon, like we talked about. There are a lot of teams that had some rust coming into the season. They didn't look fantastic. But
one more game.
I was about to say, you want to talk about bad quarterback play?
And we'll go from a good quarterback game to what in the hell is Connor Wegman doing? He is not good. Where on the other side of the ball, I can't remember Notre Dame's quarterback name. Was it Riley Leonard?
Riley Leonard, yeah.
Riley Leonard looked half bad.
He was fine.
Notre Dame definitely looks like they have a good defense. Offense, a little to be desired.
Yeah.
For someone that thought pretty highly of Texas A&M, thought's kind of left my head. They look like a 7-5, 6-6 team, especially if that's the quarterback play you're going to get.
Yeah, that's.
We watched someone here in Greenville throw 2 egregious picks. They weren't as bad as Wegman's.
No,
and we'll talk about ECU at the end of the show here and give them their highlights.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if Wegman thought he was wearing white the whole game.
Wow.
Good Lord.
That was not what you wanted to see out of him. So I'm curious on what A&M can do with a lack of a quarterback.
I think if you're an A&M fan, you put that behind you, go into the opening part of like the rest of the opening part of your schedule and just see what happens. I got to pull up their schedule real quick just to see what their upcoming games are. Let's see. They got McNeese this week, so we'll see exactly. We'll see if just how much Wegman can throw the ball.
Yeah.
And then they're at Florida, which apparently doesn't matter anymore, but
he's fired. Billy, that's the hottest seat in college football right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's a top 10 job. And
100%.
I think Florida fans really wish they had Dan Mullen still.
100%.
They won't admit it because it's the craziest group of individuals. And I'm sorry, I'm from the state of Florida. I got friends that are Florida fans. You guys are delusional every year. You have been for a while. Since Will Muschamp was your coach, you guys have been delusional. You fired a coach that won 30 games in 3 years, and now you're complaining about what you have. This is y'all's fault. I don't know how else to put that. Couldn't wish it upon a nicer group of people. But that's kind of our week 1 cleanup here. I'm going to do a little housekeeping before we move to my new segment. But if you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, subscribe. Feel free to chat in the comment. We got Matt over here on the 1s and 2s, so he'll be reading stuff out. If you're on Twitter, give us a follow, like the tweet, retweet, all that good stuff.
It's free to do all of this stuff.
It's free to do all this stuff. So, we're not getting paid. We're not paying you.
No.
So.
And if you're hanging out on Twitter, best way to chat is check out the YouTube.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think you get both chats straight to that thing too. So
I don't think Twitter has a chat.
Well, on Twitter, you could just honestly tweet at us, DM us, however you feel like getting up with us. We'll go through, and if you got any questions or talking points, we'll definitely hit those as best we can. But yeah, you want to move into your surprise subject? I'm scared.
We're calling this real or fake. It's real simple.
Real or fake.
Real or fake. I'll start off. I got 5 topics, and we're gonna go real or fake here.
Okay.
Oregon, real or fake?
They're real. They slow start, but they're real.
They got to pick it up quick.
Oh, I know.
They got to pick it up quick.
It's coming in hot for them. But
Oregon, I know we'll drop our top 12 probably after the show. But Oregon, just a little warning, they fell a long way for me.
They did not look great against an Idaho team that, albeit has the greatest stadium in all of college football. Shout out to Kibby Dome. They're a good FCS team. In recent years, they've been at least contending with making the playoff, but they're not a team that should be giving Oregon any kind of problems, especially this year's Oregon. They got Boise coming up next this weekend.
This isn't going to be an easy game for them.
Which Boise didn't look necessarily fantastic either, but I mean, obviously
6 touchdowns.
Yeah, Genty looks
he looks
incredible.
legit.
The rest of that team kind of is up in the air. A lot of
Yeah.
question marks with their passing attack, with their defense and whatnot. But Ashton Genty is there's no problem about him. But then they're at Oregon State in the Civil War, which we still call it that. And then that's it for their non-conference. The Big Ten's playing 9 conference games this year, so they got 2 games that are decent tests for them. That I feel like we can really see whether or not that, or at least get a better idea of whether or not they're real or fake.
Yeah.
Heading into their conference slate, which starts at UCLA, so that's not going to be much of anything because they're
UCLA's a joke.
But I'd say Oregon's real. What do you think?
I lean real. I'm a little biased towards Dan Lanning. I think we can chalk this up to new quarterback, a little bit of rust. But Oregon might be a team that might be on this list for a little bit.
Yeah.
Next, I'm going to go not really to a team, but a quarterback on a team that we were on the other side of last week. Both of us liked West Virginia. Drew Adler, real or fake? Drew
Adler's real. And I knew that coming into the season, though.
He looked real.
He's a beast.
He looked real.
And we talked about it. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before. Drew Adler got all this hate because he couldn't beat Ohio State and he couldn't beat Michigan.
Yeah.
2 of the best teams in the country every single year. 2 of the best defenses specifically in the country every single year too. What? Okay, cool. The third best team in the conference couldn't beat first and second place. Okay, sure.
Sounds about right.
Doesn't matter to me. Drew Adler's legit. Yeah. He's very good.
Had a great game against.
He looks like he's improved
Virginia
too.
Team that I think a lot of people were high on.
Which I still like West Virginia. I mean, I like Garrett Green a lot.
Yeah,
I'm not. That game didn't. I knew they were going to lose that game anyways. I took a no sweat token and bet West Virginia money line just on the off chance, just playing at home. But
I was up with a bunch of Penn State fans, so I took Penn State to cover at minus 16.5 sometime in the second quarter, and they covered and that hit, and then took Aller to throw a touchdown pass in the third drive.
Yeah, too. And I think that game was mainly just a matchup problem for West Virginia.
Yeah, I don't
on both sides of the ball
to keep up with them.
Exactly. That game doesn't bother me for West Virginia's sake, but it definitely doesn't bother me for Penn State's sake. They as a whole looked really good, and Drew Aller I think he's a dark horse Heisman contender.
Next one I got on here, I know we talked about this game a little bit in the recap, but Notre Dame, real or fake? I'm going to go with real just because of the remainder of their schedule.
I think that definitely. I'm going to say real just because I think if you listen to Josh Pate at all, he loves to talk about how people say Notre Dame's overrated and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think Notre Dame is rated exactly how they're supposed to, just to echo what he thinks.
They're number 10 to number 17.
They could be, anywhere between the latter half of the latter half or maybe latter quarter of the top 10 and just bleeding into the top 15, somewhere in that range. I feel like is perfect for Notre Dame. They're not going to be the best team in the country at all, but their schedule is going to make them look like it at times. And I think that they're real. Their schedule helps them out a lot, but we've also seen this team lose to Marshall at home in the past, and I don't see that with this team. I think that they're probably a playoff team. Where they are in said playoff seeding, I don't know, but I think Notre Dame's real.
Another team we spent a little time talking about in the recap, USC's defense, real or fake? I'm going real just because of I think highly of Nussmeier right now.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'd lean real. I'm more 50-50 on that just because we haven't seen them play.
I think this is
a true powerful offense. LSU is, I think they're 91 octane. I think they're premium gas, but they're not E85. They're not race fuel. So that's a good offense to test your defense against. And I think that, obviously they held them 20 points and won the game. So I'd say they're real.
I saw improved tackling at least from watching the game. Definitely a new DC helps.
I was about to say it's not a what's his face defense. I can't think of.
He's now the
Alex
Alex
Grinch. Yeah,
he's
that
now
guy
the safety
stinks.
coach at Wisconsin, which wolf.
Yeah.
Another team that got off to a slow start,
which I kind of expected from
the
them.
last one I got, and this is a team that'll probably get brought up again later in the show. Brand new quarterback for them. We've talked a little highly on them. They got a pretty big matchup out of all the things in week 2. The Nebraska hype, real or fake?
I don't want to go 5 for 5 real, but I love Nebraska
Because
their defense is good too. Their defense is very good. Plus, they have Patrick Mahomes Jr., Dylan Raiola at quarterback.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that this team is. We'll get to our picks and just what we think about the week 2 slate later, but a sneak peek. I think they're going to blow out Colorado.
I
don't think Colorado stands
I'm
a
sure
chance.
both of us
in
will
that
end
game.
up talking about that game.
Yeah.
Hey, 5 reels ain't nothing wrong. I just thought this would be a fun thought experiment. And,
No, let's keep that going and surprise me. Keep surprising me with who it is.
Yeah,
too,
I'm giving you no prep in this segment.
fun thought exercise. I enjoyed that.
Well, I'll move us into our next topic. We'll do a little week 2 preview.
All right.
Go ahead and I'll start us with a big noon kick. We got Michigan versus Texas. It's the best game of the week. Like I said, Michigan got off to a bit of a slow start last week. Still ended up winning the game somewhat handedly. Texas just goat rodeoed whoever they played. I mean, we saw Little Manning get in and do his thing.
Yeah. God, who did they play?
Colorado State.
It was Colorado State.
I think the line's at a touchdown.
I'm gonna hold off on betting on gambling picks for this game because it's coming to you in a minute.
Yeah,
but
we'll just with the week 2 slate, we'll just talk winners. I like Texas in this game.
Oh, I do too.
100%. I think it's going to be close. I don't know why.
I think so too.
I don't.
I think it'll be close.
Texas can still cover, but this is going to be a ball game late into the 4th quarter.
I think it'll be close for most of the game, but I see late 3rd, early 4th, Texas kind of taking control.
They
of
got
this
more
game.
dogs than Michigan. I think
Michigan still doesn't know what their quarterback situation is because Orgy wasn't great, and then they bring out what's his name, Warren.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
then
Yeah.
he looked far and away the better quarterback in my opinion. I thought so, unless I have that backwards, but from what my
I think Orgy was the starter.
Yeah, exactly. But from what my exhausted brain is remembering, Orgy did not look great, and then they bring in other dude, and I can't remember. I might be flipping them, but either way, it'll take some figuring out at quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. I think Michigan's still probably the more physical football team. I just think from a talent standpoint, at some point, I think Texas is going to wear them down, like you said. It's somewhere late 3rd, early 4th.
That's what I see happening. I think it's a definitely a close game at halftime. I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan has a field goal lead or something like that going into the half. I just think that throughout the course of this game, Texas is just going to be too much for Michigan.
I think I agree.
And I feel like it'll kind of snap on one play. Maybe it's a turnover that Texas forces or something, or a big play offensively. But I feel like there's going to be a turning point of this game just based on kind of 1 or 2 plays, and Michigan's never going to be able to recover. That's kind of how I see that game kind of playing out.
Do they have a name for that game we got up top?
Do they have a name?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cyhawk.
Oh, well, we'll go to the Cyhawk.
Let's go to the Cyhawk.
We got Iowa versus Iowa State. Just 2 predominant offenses. We're going to see a barn burner here.
Yeah, a whole bunch of yards and points.
Yeah, we're talking every bit of maybe each team might have $150 in yards.
Yeah,
we're going to see some great punting. Just a ton of points. It might be a 15-10 game.
Yeah, in my opinion, this game's a pick 'em. I think Iowa's a 3-point favorite, but I think they're laying 3 because they're the home 2.5 or 3. They're the home team, so they're going to get the field goal. This game is impossible to predict, in my opinion. Honestly,
you're going to see where I lean on this game when we get to the pick 6 segment. But, this is going to be a rock fight to say the least. If you're looking for entertaining offenses, this is not the game I'd watch.
No, I think it'll be a bouncy ball fight, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, this is
it's either that or a boulder fight, however you want to interpret that.
For anyone that likes rough and rowdy, this is just 2 fat guys in round 2, just completely out of steam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a Hills of West Virginia special right here. I don't have a whole lot of input on this game just because from a gambling perspective, I've stayed away from it just because I have no clue what to expect. I didn't really see much of either team in week one. I was high on Iowa State kind of as a dark horse in the Big 12. I like Iowa to obviously not score a whole lot of points, but still just win games based on defense alone.
That's what they do. They're a
exactly
10-2 football team.
Exactly. That's always Iowa. Whether they look like a modern day 10-2 football team or not, they're going to go out there and play defense and win games. I think you're right.
This is a team we could see being like an 11 seed, and it's going to anger so many people when they get the break speed off of them.
Yeah, or they won't. I mean, it depends on who that higher seed is, because if they're a low seed in the playoff, they'll obviously have to go play a road game in the first round. Team's not going to win the Big 12, the Big 10, but I think they could definitely make the playoff. Let's see. Iowa State this week, home against Troy next week. Then they're at Minnesota, which doesn't matter. Carolina went up there and beat them. At Ohio State,
that's a loss.
That's probably a loss. Home against Wisconsin, or not Wisconsin. Home against Washington. I don't think Washington's going to be that like anything special this year. At Michigan State, that's a win.
Sparty's not any good.
Northwestern at home, that's
the
Wisconsin
easiest game was awful.
Wisconsin does not look great. I think that's a win for Iowa. At UCLA, give me a win there.
Yeah.
At Maryland, that's a tough game, but
Maryland's a decent football
Maryland's
team.
Underrated environment in college football too. That game, we'll call it a push, and then Nebraska at home is the real kicker to end the season.
Which kind of stinks with all the new additions, because that actually would have been a fun battle for the Big Ten West between Nebraska and Iowa.
Exactly, which we saw early on when Nebraska first joined the Big Ten. I mean, they made the conference championship, and I think it was their game against Wisconsin. There were like 100 points scored in that game. I mean, Nebraska. Jury's out on them, but jury's out on Iowa too.
Yeah.
It's week 2. We're going into week 2. We've seen from the vast majority of college football teams 1/12 of their schedule. Yeah. So we don't really know. It's
the toughest thing. I know we haven't got to our picks yet, but it was the toughest thing with picks is something I had to keep reminding myself is you can't bet with what you learned from week 1 and week 2. That's how you lose money.
Exactly. Like this. Iowa might score 30 points in this game for all we know.
I hope not.
No,
we'll get to my reason why on that. But yeah.
I think it's pretty obvious what the reasoning is.
The last game we'll touch on is with one of your teams there, Tennessee and NC State.
Yeah.
Prime time. In Charlotte. I don't think you're feeling good.
I don't know how to feel about this game.
I don't think you're feeling good.
Because this is all. I mean.
And it's the whole thing I just said. You can't look into week 1 and base your week 2 picks, but dadgummit, does Nico look like the real
Nico's
deal?
In the conversation for the Heisman.
Nico could have been someone we talked about in real or fake, but I didn't think we needed to because I think that brother's the truth.
Oh my God, yeah. He looked scary. Then Grayson McCall on the other side did not look scary at all.
Did not look great.
We knew
Nick on his first drive. Did not have great ball placement against a not good Western Carolina team.
No. And then if you look at the other side of the ball from an NC State perspective, we knew their defense was going to be down. I didn't think it'd be that bad, which we got plenty of playmakers on that defense. The secondary is going to need to obviously we Aiden White is the captain of that secondary, and he's potentially an All-American. Outside of him, it's I did not see a whole lot of excitement for the future of this season. Secondary wise, linebacker wise, the guys up front looked good. I mean, Brandon Cleveland looked good. Davin Van looked good, which I expected both of them to. But behind our front 3 or 4, I don't know what we're going to do to stop Nico.
And then Tennessee's probably got a top 5 D line in the country.
Exactly. And our O-line is pretty good. I mean, McCall had time to throw the ball against Western Carolina basically the whole game.
Waters is going to have a day for you guys.
And I think he definitely could. It's just a matter of how well we can block for him.
Yeah.
And how quickly he can get around the outside if we can't.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I think this game, obviously, the passing attack for Tennessee is the main focal point of this game. If NC State can pass the ball like they want to, at least close to how they want to, but also pound the rock and run the ball like better than expected, because I'm not expecting any too much of anything on the ground. If we can surprise Tennessee with the run game, I think we'll be in this game the whole way. But I think it's going to be a close game to a point. I just don't know when that point is.
I think it might be the end of the first quarter.
It potentially will be.
Sue put in good old Rocky Top. So
I hate that song.
It's a great song.
No, it's not.
But
not when you hear it 82 times in a game.
I like folk music. I think about it obviously from a college football standpoint, but I mean, as a whole, it's a good song. But I mean, I'd love to see a game at Neyland.
I'm good.
I've never experienced it, and also Tennessee didn't give a rat's behind about, aside from now that NC State's a halfway decent program and we're playing a neutral site in the Dukes Mayo Classic. They don't care about NC State as a whole. They definitely don't care about ECU.
No. I will say that is one thing
I feel like I wouldn't get on my nerves.
Kind of want to keep my eye on with this game is that this is a bigger deal for NC State than I think it is for Tennessee.
100%.
If Tennessee doesn't get up,
exactly. That's
they could get caught with their pants down.
Wolfpack Nation is excited for this game.
Yeah.
This is people like to throw around the term Super Bowl in this context as like a bad thing or like a derogatory, if you will, thing. Why not?
Yeah.
Like why?
I mean,
every game should be your Super Bowl, but like why, especially this game, an out of conference game to really prove yourself when the ACC as a whole looks terrible aside from Miami and a little bit of Louisville. Like State didn't look good against an FCS team last week. This is our chance to turn it around and prove ourselves. And Tennessee's just not going into that with the same kind of chip on their shoulder, I guess, which is, I mean, they don't have to. But if they don't get up for this game, reality could hit them really quick because this NC State team has a lot of explosiveness in it. I just don't think it was brought out necessarily. It wasn't really on display in the Western Carolina game. Maybe that's us hiding a lot of things. Maybe that's just this team really isn't explosive. It's hard to get a gauge in an in-state FCS matchup. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm leaning Tennessee to win here, obviously, even with my extreme bias. But I think this game could be closer than people think if Tennessee doesn't get up for this game.
Yeah, that is my one little bit of worry in this game.
Yeah, because State's going to be ready. State is going to be ready. It's just a matter of if they can stay in the game.
Well, we got my new standalone weekly segment. Let's go to your weekly standalone segment. Paul's Parlay here.
Paul's Parlay.
Yeah.
All right. What we got this week, it's half as big as it was last week. Last week, the 8-legger. Thank you, Virginia Tech and Texas A&M for absolutely sewering me.
Did you get 6 out of 8 legs on that?
I think I went 6 for 8 with a team losing to Vanderbilt and a team losing at home to Notre Dame. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
This week it's only a 4-legger. I got 2 spreads, 2 money lines. We'll start with the money lines. We'll start with Pitt at Cincinnati. Pitt somehow plus 106 money line here. Why?
Yeah.
Cincinnati.
You know what? I saw that Pitt was not favored in that game, and I thought that was quite interesting.
Cincinnati has a great environment when the team's good, and even when they're not that good. This team stinks, though. I didn't even bother to look at what they did last week. Don't care. Scott Satterfield is not the guy for this program.
No, not a good hire.
There's no standout talent really across this whole roster from my knowledge. I can't think of anybody.
There's nobody that jumps off the page.
Which there's not really either for Pitt, but in my opinion, Cincinnati, you combine lack of premier talent with severe lack in coaching ability. I think this team's the worst team in Power 4. I don't know how they're a home favorite here against Pitt. They could go in there and win by double digits for all I know. I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah. I think Pitt's going to go in there and maybe not do it with ease, but I think it's going to be somewhat smooth sailing for Pitt.
Well, I know it's not Heinz Field anymore, but will Pitt be the best team to play in Heinz Field this year?
No. No, I don't.
Oh God,
Cincinnati might not be the best team to play in Nippert Stadium this season, and they're the only team that plays in Nippert Stadium this season. So I'm so low on Cincinnati. I'm not high on Pitt, but Pitt obviously they were good a couple of years ago with Kenny Pickett when they won the ACC, but I feel like they're just a team that is always I feel like they're a quintessential trap game team in recent years when they in the years that they haven't been very great.
Yeah.
And so I feel like them plus 106 is what I got them at. Easily throwing that into the parlay. We'll move on to the other money line. Nebraska home against Colorado minus 260. Sure.
Yeah.
I didn't love the spread on this game, but I felt like that's not an easy money line, but one that should be an easy money line. I feel like Nebraska is going to have their way with Colorado for the majority of this game, and I just don't think Colorado can't stop anybody. I don't know how they're going to stop Dylan Raiola in this offense, and I don't like. Shadur's never going to have any time to throw the ball. I don't think. I mean, this Nebraska defense looks
feisty.
They look sick. I just don't think that Shadur's going to have much time or too many open receivers. Obviously, he's got a great receiving core, so they'll have their moments. Obviously, Travis
speed
Hunter
on the outside.
Exactly. Obviously, they'll have Travis Hunter will have his moments. Joe Horn's kid is going to have his moments probably. They got plenty of weapons. It's just a matter of if they can get themselves open enough and quick enough before Shadur gets put on his hind end in the backfield, because that's going to be happening.
Bad.
And that Nebraska D-line is not bad.
Yeah.
They're quite the opposite. So Nebraska money line there. Didn't feel like messing with the spread. Just give me a money line there. Here we go with spreads. I like Texas minus 7.5. I think they're going to. When I said that they're going to pull away from Michigan, I like them to kind of already have the lead at that point, and then just I feel like mistakes are going to kind of stack up for Michigan in a less experienced kind of group offensively.
Yeah.
And Texas, I mean, obviously Donovan Edwards, we know what he can do running the ball, but I just think
like we said earlier,
Texas passing
we don't know if Michigan's got the dogs to keep up with Texas for 4 quarters.
We spent time on this game. I just think Texas minus 7.5. I could see them. I could see them winning this game by 10 to 2 touchdowns. I just that's a gut pick, but I feel good about that. Even though it's at Michigan, I don't know. I just don't think that they'll be super phased. And then I had ECU minus 2.5 at Old Dominion. I think we're going to talk more about this game towards the end, but. I think Old Dominion, they're not some pushover, which I was saying throughout the season. I've been worried about this game, honestly, more than the App and Liberty game, because we're not necessarily supposed to win those games as much as we are this game. Old Dominion should have beaten South Carolina.
Yeah, I know. We'll spend some time on them when we do our ECU segment.
But ECU, I think tempo is going to be just too much for Old Dominion. I think I just don't know if Old Dominion is going to be able to keep up. Our defense is going to be on the field a lot, but I think in a good way.
Yeah.
As long as we can minimize those early turnovers that we had.
Yeah, definitely got to clean it up.
But even with the turnovers, especially you look at Garcia, he had 3 picks, 4 touchdowns, a whole bunch of passing yards. We still won a game by 39 points. So we'll get to that. We'll get to ECU more, but had them at minus 120. That all came out to a 4-legger at plus 920. I put a $5 bonus bet on it to pay 46, but I felt good about it.
Yeah, a little plus 920, nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. I'm going to use bonus bets when I can. Yeah. So that too easy. That bet is placed. I did it at the same time as the Washington Commanders to make the playoffs.
That's a bold move,
we'll see what frame of mind I was in, and if how that plays long term.
How many did you have when you placed that bet?
I had sleepiness.
Right there with you. But I'll move us from one gambling segment to the next. Our weekly pick six.
Pick 6, baby.
I'll go ahead and lead us off here. I like Iowa State under 35 points. I just think
do as
it's
well.
going to be a rock fight. If the game's 17-14, is anyone going to be shocked? I don't think so.
Not even a little bit. I don't know if either team scores 20. I kind of like Iowa State in that game. I can't lie. It's at Iowa, so that's tough.
I had a tough time picking it. 2.5-point spread. I'll take the total. I'll take the under.
I agree.
Here. I hate betting unders, but this is.
I think if you're gonna pick an outright winner in this game, I think Iowa's probably the play. I think if this game is in Iowa City, so I think Iowa's gonna win. If this game was in Ames, I'd probably be on Iowa State. Yeah. If I were to, I'm staying away from that. But this just feels like a game that if you're gonna take an outright winner, just take the home team.
Yeah.
Especially in that environment.
Oh, yeah. What's your first pick there, big dog?
I hate to pull stuff from my parlay, but Pitt not being the favorite at Cincinnati is crazy, I think. So I'm gonna take Pitt just as a standalone too. I might not place that since it's already my parlay, but I love that.
Pitt money line. I don't hate it.
Straight up Pitt money line at Cincinnati when they're the dog.
Yeah.
Come on. That should be free money. It's pennies on the dollar, but who cares?
I hate to do this to my second pick to my dad's alma mater, but I think he has a similar opinion on the Spartans as I do. They're just not good. Giles didn't look very good week one, and as someone that has a dynasty with them and played with them, I know how wrong this can get fast. I like Maryland laying the 9.5. I this is a 2-touchdown win for Maryland.
Yeah.
That's
I have no rebuttals to that. None at all. I kind of like. I was looking at this game earlier. Troy at Memphis. Memphis is minus 18.5. That's a big number. I just feel like, Memphis is at home, and Memphis we know is going to be a good team this year. Troy is going to take a step back, but I don't think that they're going to regress enough to 18.5.
Troy played all right last week.
I think they did. Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. I just that just feels like a game that the line is way off, which it's Vegas. So the line's probably perfect. Troy plus 18.5 feels really good for God knows why, but that's what I'm on there.
Yeah. My third pick game we spent a little time talking about in the week 2 preview. Give me Tennessee laying the 9.5 as well. Unfortunately, Paul, I think Tennessee's going to boat race NC State.
I don't disagree necessarily.
I think they're just going to boat race.
I like State's chances in this game. I really like Tennessee's chances in this game. And it's just as much of a homer as I want to be. Realistically, I think Tennessee wins this game. I think State has the better crowd. We've already sold out our allotment and are buying the remains of Tennessee's allotment.
Yeah. So
we'll definitely have more heads there, more noise, I'd say, but I don't necessarily think that'll matter much in a neutral site game. So at least as much as I want it to. So I'm not gonna necessarily disagree with you there.
Hit me with third pick.
Just honestly, another road team here. Kansas at Illinois. Illinois did not look bad at all. I love their helmets that they're wearing this week. I'll get to uniforms later in the show. But I feel like Kansas minus 4.5 on the road at Illinois. That's not an environment that necessarily intimidates me. It's a Big Ten environment, and they get up for big games. But when games get out of hand, or like when Illinois, the first kind of hint of them not winning a game, it always kind of feels like watching their games on TV that stadium kind of clears out quick. And I feel like Kansas has the firepower and the defense to kind of basically shut down Illinois. And I feel like 4.5. I feel like they could easily win this game by a touchdown. Like I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility at all.
What you got there, Matt?
Zach wants to know: do y'all think FSU is going to upset Memphis? Is what the question is.
I don't think so. In all honesty, at some point it's got to start turning around for Florida State. They got more athletes. I know we've said that 2 weeks in a row now, but I think Florida State should beat Memphis. I
think
know
so
a lot
too.
of people
Memphis
are high on Memphis in the AAC.
Which
but
I'm high on Memphis too. I think that's just going to be too much of a talent disparity and experience disparity just from a lot of those Florida State players, maybe not necessarily while at Florida State, just more big game experience and just they're going to be the better coach football team. It's just a matter of if they've given up on the season by that point or not.
Yeah.
My
fourth pick here, I got Nebraska -7.5 over Colorado. My opinions on Dion have been very loud on this show.
Rightfully so.
I don't think Colorado's a good football team. The media does something that is not safe for radio to Colorado and Dion. I'm over the hype. I like Dion. I'm not a Dion hater, but he's making it really hard not to dislike them right now. That, and I think Dylan Raiola might go down as the better quarterback, and we'll see. Yeah. I know he's played one game. He's a true freshman. But, I mean, we're talking about a guy that could be a real game changer and might be a first-round pick one day. I like Nebraska here on both sides of the ball. Yeah. I think they also boat race.
They're just going to be way too much physicality. I think Colorado, from a finesse standpoint, might have the edge there. They have the better quarterback. Even as much as we love Raiola, Colorado has a better quarterback. They're going to have They're going to have the two best players on the field.
Yeah, Shedeur
and Travis
Hunter
are the two of the best players in the country.
Horn's a good wide receiver.
I was a big Joe Horn guy as a little kid, so I like seeing his son out there. I think it's pretty cool. But
he's a speedster too. I didn't realize how quick he was.
That whole like every skill player on that offense is.
But you saw,
quick.
I mean, you saw an FCS team, and a good FCS team didn't have the speed to keep up with them on the outside. And that ended up giving Colorado kind of the game there towards the end. That and the bizarre quarterback decisions that North Dakota State was making.
Some questionable officiating.
But now, I mean, we're talking about a Big Ten team that is well coached. That guy in year 2 usually gets 10 wins. I'm pretty sure he did it at Temple.
Yeah.
So after a bad first season, I think the story says the same for Nebraska. We've said it a couple times on the show. I think Nebraska's a 10-win football team. Give me Nebraska laying the 7.5.
Yeah, I mean, and back to what you were saying, like what kind of gave Colorado the game against North Dakota State was their speed around the outside and just skill from that entire just as a whole on offense. Just too much skill basically and just unteachable skills like speed.
Yeah.
But the only reason that game was close is because they were the second strongest team on the field. North Dakota State was
given
brutalizing that offensive line.
That D-line couldn't get much of a push.
And no, exactly. And I like it just goes back to my point about physicality. I don't see Colorado hanging in this game.
We'll see as the season progresses how X's and O's I want to get. But that was something I really wanted. I kind of wanted to take a deeper dive on.
Speaking of X's and O's, we're going to throw those directly out the window here for this pick. I do not care that the line is or that the over-under 65.5. Hammer the over in Texas Tech at Washington State in the Mike Leach Bowl. Texas Tech was in a 100-plus point overtime game with an FCS team this past week where they escaped by 1. More of the same from them, plus Washington State. I think it's the Mike Leach Bowl. There's the Mike Leach 65.5 feels like a perfectly normal number to bet the over in this game. So that's nothing more than just a gut pick. R.I.P. the Pirate. But yeah, why not 65.5? Life's too short to bet the under.
God, I don't like that I have 5 favorites. But fifth pick here for me, I got Kentucky giving 10 points to South Carolina. South Carolina looked bad.
Yeah.
And I know it's a transfer quarterback and he's getting his first starts, but Gunnar Stockton was a highly recruited guy, sat on the bench at Georgia, looked at his numbers. They looked good. I think he had 1 touchdown and 1 pick, but had a good completion rating, had a good amount of yards. That game got ended short because of weather. And they still, I know they didn't play anybody good, but Kentucky's a well-coached football team. That defense is going to be good. That might be one of the better, if not top 3 defense in the Southeastern Conference this year. South Carolina ain't got much.
Yeah.
Give me Kentucky laying the 10.
Yep. I as a South Carolina fan, I'm not going to disagree with that.
Yeah.
Like it's just ugly watching that game on Saturday against Old Dominion. Old Dominion just kind of had their way with South Carolina a lot of that game and just couldn't execute. Like South Carolina turned them over twice. What is it? Inside the 10? I know it was inside the red zone. But like that's the only reason South Carolina had a chance to win that game in the first place. So I don't see them performing really. I can see them improving, but I just don't see a better result against this Kentucky team that I think is another team that's just going to provide more physicality on probably both sides of the ball, unfortunately for me. Where'd it go? Oh, also, quick update on the ECU line. ECU now plus 1.5 on ESPN Bet. If you're into ESPN Bet, so if you
pull up another thing while you do your fifth pick,
there you
see
go.
If it's changed somewhere else.
I don't really know why the line is 55.5 or why the over/under is 55.5 for Virginia at Wake Forest. I don't know why they think these teams are going to hit 50 points. So remember when I said life's too short to bet the under? Well, life's short. Here we go.
Not two unders on the pick six this week.
Yeah, dude. Virginia. I mean, Calandria can move the ball. I like their quarterback situation. I like Anthony Calandria. I just don't know what his like. I don't like Wake Forest defense, but I don't like really Virginia's defense either. I don't like Wake Forest anything. I like Virginia's quarterback, and that's about it. I don't know where they got 55.5 from, aside from the fact that they probably just don't think anyone's gonna be able to stop anybody. But I feel like no one's gonna be able to move the ball. Aside from Virginia, I think Virginia wins this game handily, while Wake's sitting here as a 1-point favorite.
Yeah.
But I just
she'll probably see that get moved to a pick 'em by Saturday.
If not all the way in Virginia's favor. I just that just feels like an under game. Gross.
My last pick here, the more and more I look at this, the more and more I hate this pick, but I've already placed it. Oklahoma State laying 7.5 against Arkansas. I know Arkansas scored a buttload of points on Pine Bluff. I mean, we're talking about Arkansas Pine Bluff after all. I like Sam Pittman, former Georgia offensive line coach. Yes, sir. I don't think he's going to be yes, sir, in this weekend. I just
guy stinks, dude.
I don't think he's a good coach.
Terrible coach.
I don't think he's a good coach. I think the pigs are going to get barbecued here.
Probably so. And honestly, I was about to say something else. There's nothing really for me to add.
Yeah.
It's just, that team's
only thing I missed in my pick six this week is
good.
I don't have an Allman Brothers reference.
Yeah.
I was really trying to find some way to sneak an Allman Brothers reference in there, and I don't have one. So, yeah, I think you could put a wet blanket on Arkansas right now. Give me Oklahoma State. What's your last pick here, bud?
It's a good question, to be honest. I'm shopping around right now. I didn't come with all of them.
Touchdown Xavier Worthy for anyone that cares.
Yeah, this is about to be a tie ball game, I believe.
It's a rushing touchdown, not a receiving though.
Yeah,
Mahomes pitched it to him. Hey, if anyone took the DraftKings special of 7+ points in the first quarter at plus 130, that just cashed.
Yep.
There you go. Honestly, yeah, screw it. I provided an update on the ECU line. If you can catch it other places or like wherever,
and we're about to get into our ECU preview.
Exactly. So. Yeah. Well, this will be the perfect segue from the pick six to our ECU preview for the week. If Old Dominion's favored in this game, hammer ECU,
which they are.
Which exactly. We could go out there and just get absolutely shocked.
DraftKings power
DraftKings
plus 100.
Yeah.
DraftKings
has moved the line.
Take that all.
FanDuel has moved the line. ESPN, the line has moved, which this line has jumped all week. And there's our pick six just to kind of close it out, and we'll jump right into our ECU preview. If you're still hanging with us in the chat, I'm sure we got plenty of ECU fans. Feel free to put your comments in about last week, how you feel about this game up in Virginia this week. Just some quick hits on this. Like we said, ECU at Old Dominion, The line has now moved before our eyes, and as it's moved all week, I think Old Dominion actually started as the favorite when the line opened, and now they're back.
I think they were, yeah.
ECU's a 1.5 point underdog.
Yeah,
now.
in my parlay, I had ECU minus 2.5.
Yeah, those odds are going to be better if you take that parlay.
Yeah,
now.
exactly. I'm a man of the people here.
Over under at 54. Just saying that out loud, like the over here. I
yeah.
like the over here.
Pirate money line at plus 100 right now is crazy.
That is
it's square odds for Pirate money line. That's crazy right now.
Yeah, that's
just to win the ball game.
Which I guess I could have done. I could have
take us.
That's money.
Then you take
cash money.
You take us to cover. Obviously,
you guys feel a little better about this game than I do. Then
I'm cautious.
I'm very optimistic.
I'm very cautious about this game, but I'm cautiously optimistic. I think that just pace of play is gonna wear out Old Dominion.
Which this was something I almost put in the real or fake segment. But just knowing that we do a standalone ECU thing, what do we think of Jake Garcia? What does the chat think of Jake Garcia?
Let's find out here.
Zach says go Ravens. Sue says woo go Pirates.
Okay,
there we go. All right,
great,
nice analysis.
Yeah, great analysis
on Jake Garcia there. I'm
a little colder on him than I think a lot of ECU fans are.
I mean, I'm not really cold on him, but I'm not like over the moon. I mean, obviously, the early turnovers aren't a great
that
look.
First pick was egregious.
Oh, it was. But I think
that looked like a ball I would have thrown on JV football at Millbrook High School, which Lord knows I threw plenty of interceptions there.
Let's go Cats. Moving on. But I think in that matchup, in that game, obviously the first one was bad. The second one wasn't great. But I think he had the freedom based on that matchup, how we matched up with Norfolk State, and just in that game as well. He had the freedom to take some chances and put the ball in some places that he probably wouldn't in a normal scenario.
Definitely, I know,
just kind of to see what he can do and show us what he can do.
I think it was Igo that said it, that they wanted to test who can come down with 50-50 balls. And I know there was probably a lot of experimenting. And
obviously we didn't have Chase Sowell either. So I don't know if there's been an update on his status for this weekend. I haven't seen one. I also haven't necessarily been like searching for it. Yeah. But so
you see if there's any update.
Chat, if y'all have seen.
Sue is cautiously optimistic about Garcia as well.
Well, there we go.
She's in the same boat. She's in the canoe with us, guys.
There you go. But yeah, if y'all have seen any updates on the status of Chase Sowell, feel free to let us know in the comments or in the chat. But
I definitely want to see us run the ball more this week.
I agree.
I think we got 3 good running backs back there.
We were very pass happy. And
I know we're going to be a pass heavy team. And this is where I'll get into my concerns. And I actually had a good buddy of ours, listener to the show, Trip Craven, so shout out Trip, point this out to me. And he goes, look at those short to intermediate throws from Garcia. And I'm not going to sit here and tout and act like was some spectacular quarterback in high school, but I think I got a good understanding of the position. His outside throws from 1 to 5 yards scared the living crap out of me.
Yeah.
They're very inaccurate. They're not timely.
I was about to say that it seemed like
that seems to be kind of a standpoint of how Joey Baker's going to call our offense.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to throw deep on teams, but this is an air raid. This is a Mike Leach style offense. This is 5 to 10 yard crossing routes.
Yeah.
Which we saw him throw a pick over the middle on the first drive.
But the beauty of an air raid is having a good backfield to basically counterbalance it. And that's what we have is a good backfield. I mean, we have
in the
3 or 4 very, very serviceable guys in the backfield that we just didn't really use a whole lot in rushing scenarios. And I'd like to see more of that in the playbook.
But the 2 tight ends looked good. If we can get our wide receiver back, that's going to give us somebody to take the top off.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I still think ECU wins this game. I know given what Old Dominion did to South Carolina last week, there is a little bit of caution, so to speak. But I think the Pirates go up to VA and get it done in a close game. I'm thinking somewhere around 35-32.
It does feel like one of those. Honestly, the start of the season feels like it's just going to be an absolute war. We'll be lucky to get out of Norfolk with a win. And then we'll go into the app game next week and just take care of business. It feels like that. We've
Which you wanna
seen that
talk
from
about
ECU
team
in the past.
Super
It just
Bowls.
kind of feels like, oh yeah, I know.
Which we've talked about.
Which
this
is a big game
line,
for
yeah.
App too, especially on the road.
Imagine. So we were talking about this a little bit at work today. I was looking at app tickets that it's $80. That's $70 for the nosebleeds at Dowdy Ficklen.
Yep.
What happens if we win? And let's say, even if App doesn't beat Clemson, plays Clemson close, this might be a big ticket.
Oh yeah.
And I know we're jumping ahead a week, but I'm hoping that's not what ECU does, because you got to take care of business against Old Dominion.
Exactly. It's a feisty football team, like we talked about.
If we could go into the season 3-0, heading into a bye week to go play Liberty,
Yeah, going into Lynchburg 3-0
would be God. And if we could shut up Cuck University, I don't know if you can say Cuck on the radio.
Yeah, well, we did.
but
So
we did.
Well, it's on YouTube now.
Yeah. Well, we're not trying.
Good
to
news
make
is we're
money.
not on the radio. We're on Twitter and YouTube, baby.
But
On Twitter, it's okay for sure.
Oh, it's 100% okay.
You got a little score prediction, just for fun? I'm not holding anybody to anything here. Matt, I'll put you in on that too.
I'll go. See, I don't know if I like the over or the under in this game. I feel like the over.
I lean over.
I agree. I could see it. I could see it being anywhere from like a 31-28 or like a 38-34 sort of thing. I think it'll be close like that. I think it'll be somewhere around the 30-point range for both teams. I don't expect it to be any more than that for either team, but I don't really expect it to be like a kind of a dogfight in like the low 20s or anything like that. Like I think a decent amount of points will be scored. The over's probably going to hit, but I feel like there's a decent amount of range of what the score could be. Official prediction will go 35-31 Pirates.
So we're right around this. I said 35-30.
Did you actually? Oh, well, there we go.
I'm going to go just a smidge higher on the Pirates. I'm going to go just a touch over one score. So I'm going to go, I think the Pirates pull it out like 34-25, somewhere in
I
that
could see
ballpark.
that.
Like
Yeah.
I'm seeing just over one score. I think
There's
it's gonna
a
be, I think
lot.
I'm going to let you know, all three of us over.
Yeah.
All three of us
I
over.
think it's going to be more offense. I think it's going to be a little bit of an ugly football game, though. I think you're going to see some
turnovers.
You're going to see some turnovers. You're going to see some
from
field
both teams.
goals, some red zone stops. You might see a 2-point conversion here and there.
This
Like,
game-
that's why I threw out kind of a weirder score at 25
Yeah.
or 34-25.
Yeah.
Like I think it's going to be a weirder, tough game, but I think the Pirates are going to come out on top.
This game, we will learn a lot if there's anything left to learn about our special teams. Because we'll punt the ball this game. We'll kick some field goals this game probably. Notice my score is an even 35 and even 5 touchdowns.
Yeah. We'll see.
Prove me otherwise, which hasn't happened in a couple years. So
Are we? Was that our last bit for ECU?
That's our last segment here.
We got
Yeah,
a question
well,
from the chat.
Yeah,
let's do it. Yeah, let's
keep
let's
it
rolling.
yeah,
for
Yeah,
another
keep
minute.
it
Let's
rolling.
hammer some
in the chat,
questions.
We'll
All
hang
right.
in here.
We got a question.
which I got to do my uniforms too, but
Yeah, go ahead and look at that one.
Yeah.
Do we think that Georgia Tech is a good football team, or do you think the big win was more on FSU?
yes, is my
I
answer to
think
that
I
question.
think they're good. I think they're
They're a good
above
football
average football team.
They're a good football team. They're not a great football team.
Yeah, I don't think Haynes Keene's anything to write home at about.
See,
on,
I like Haynes King,
at quarterback.
but I also I don't love him.
Well,
like
I think we've seen it 2
he's
weeks
not
from
some
Georgia Tech. They're a
explosive
team that's
guy.
going to chew clock.
because they didn't.
They're
look
not
great
going to
this
move
weekend.
fast. Physical offensive line, decent defensive line. Georgia Tech. We said it last week. Georgia Tech's going to give teams problems.
Oh yeah,
They're definitely a bowl team.
they were also given some problems by Georgia State this past week.
Yeah.
So jury's still out. I was about to say cat's still out of the bag. It's not at all the right phrase. Jury's still out on Georgia Tech. But I feel like in the coming weeks, like in the next couple of weeks, we'll learn a lot about this team and whether or not that was flukier
Yeah.
than
Let's see what the line
I
is.
think it was. Because I think Georgia Tech's a pretty good football team.
Which, how many people we got watching live right now, Matt?
So watching live, I'm not certain. The software counts total views over time. So that can
okay.
Oh,
Well,
fantastic.
either way, we appreciate everyone hanging out with us. I think I saw we're in the 40s on Twitter, so
we're at 60 total viewers throughout the stream. So
We'll
quite a
take
lot of
that.
folks have stopped.
Yeah,
there.
we
It's been
appreciate
awesome.
everyone stopping by, man. Keep the questions rolling. We'll hang out here for a couple more minutes while he looks.
I don't know.
And you know what? On that, I didn't even think about this because I almost took this pick. Playing in the Carrier Dome.
Oh, I looked at that.
I like Syracuse over Georgia Tech this week.
See, I looked at that too. I looked at the under in that game. It's at 60.5.
Good Lord, that's a lot of points.
Just for two, like I like Kyle McCord a lot. I don't know kind of why. I don't really know why he got the axe at Ohio State, and Syracuse is so lucky to have him.
I don't think Will Howard's that big of an improvement. I think it's an improvement.
I do too, but then I mean, like I like Haynes King just fine. I'm not super high on him, but I'm not low on him either.
Another former Georgia coach.
I just think. I mean, yeah, true. I feel like the defenses are gonna figure some stuff out in this game, and 60.5 just kind of feels large.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be very much a possession game. I like Syracuse for what it's worth. Yeah, we got any more questions in the chat there?
If not, I'll dive into some of this.
In other betting news, if you had Isaiah Pacheco for over on receiving yards at 15.5, that's already hit in the second quarter or in the first quarter.
Well, there you go.
That's quality betting there.
If you're colorblind, I got some fun gray on gray games to give you this week. There's a bunch of red versus green ones. If you want to call them Christmas games, you want to call them colorblind games, whatever. They're not. None of these are really my favorite uniform picks. Although Utah Baylor is a decent one, but there's one. Let's see what else. Maryland Michigan State.
That should be a good color matchup.
If you want to throw Marshall Virginia Tech in there, it's a little iffy on the
Duke Northwestern. Quietly good uniform matchup.
Yeah,
I think Texas Michigan, if they could both wear their home uniforms, would be a great matchup.
Oh, that'd be an all-time matchup. There was another one. USF at Alabama.
Yeah.
Let's see. I know there's more. I'm getting South Carolina's more blue, or South Alabama's more blue than red in their red, white, and blue color scheme, but they're playing at Ohio. Let's see. Where was it? Sacramento State at Fresno State. There you go. There's a sicko game for you. No lines on that game, unfortunately. So yeah, there's a lot of good green on red matchups. It's going to be just horrible viewing for anyone that's colorblind.
Mississippi State, Arizona State could be a good color matchup.
I agree. If you want to go to more sicko viewing, ULM's bringing out their all blacks this year with this weekend with their white Warhawk helmets. I think they're going to be looking real good. That's just a one-off uniform. I don't know exactly what uniform combos a lot of teams are wearing. Honestly, depending on what App wears, App at Clemson could be.
That could be, yeah.
That's going to be
if it's orange and black, that could be an appealing.
Yeah.
Even orange and yellow. They don't really wear yellow, do they? Do they have a yellow uniform?
Who? App? Yeah, they do.
Okay.
They do, and they got gold helmets too. Yeah. Speaking of gold, this would be a sick dark on dark matchup if Wake Forest wears their all blacks with whether they wear the chrome helmets or the chrome decal on the matte black helmet, which is one of my favorite helmets in college football, and I hate Wake Forest, so that's saying a lot. If they could get that with Virginia's like orange uniforms, I feel like that'd be sweet. But even if Virginia goes like an icy white sort of thing, I feel like just the black on white, but like with some cool accent colors in there, I feel like that could be a good uniform game. Miami and Florida A&M, they're just the same colors. So
they are the same colors.
They'll look like each other, so that'll be goofy to watch. Iowa State, Iowa is going to be a good one.
It's always usually
that's a classy uniform matchup that happens every year, which is we don't always get good uniform matchups.
Yeah,
that are year after year games. BYU SMU tomorrow night could be really good from a uniform standpoint. I could go over a lot more games, but I feel like I touched on the main ones. I don't know what kind of like one-offs or specialty uniforms some teams might be wearing, but just going base uniforms it's a pretty decent uniform week, I'd say.
Chad did not like the colorblind comment.
Who's colorblind? Which one of you's colorblind?
In Sands.
In Sands?
In Sands?
I think Insane was the intended word, but In Sands is what was chatted. So And Sands is on the record officially.
Okay.
We got any more questions, or are we just insane?
I wasn't throwing shade at colorblind folks. I'm just saying.
Right. Got another question.
Bunch of red and green.
Who is each of you guys' highest ceiling, lowest floor team?
Ooh.
Honestly, it's probably a team I got money on this week. I think it's Nebraska.
Yeah,
I think it'd
I'm
be
kind of
Nebraska
on board
for
with
me.
that. Should we do the other team from that game for lowest floor?
Yeah, but I could see a world where Nebraska goes 6-6, 5-7.
No, I agree.
But I truly think their ceiling's 11-1, 10-2.
Yeah,
I mean, I think they could end up being a playoff team by the time everything's said and done. Similar feelings with Kentucky.
You're
honestly,
you're big on Kentucky.
I am big on. I like Stoops. I mean,
I love Stoops.
I think A&M made a good hire, but why they didn't take Stoops is still beyond me.
Yeah,
Another team I think low floor, high ceiling, USC.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of teams that
they could be a playoff team or they could be a 7-8 win football team.
Yeah.
According to the chat, Sue and Sydney are not having fun. You're Sydney.
Okay.
That's what they said. I don't know.
Hate it for them.
All right.
Who
asked that question?
That was Zach.
Oh, good question, Zach.
That is a good question.
That was a good question.
Because I haven't provided an answer yet. Aside from piggybacking on your Nebraska.
So, we're 1 week into the season. Obviously not a whole lot, to be known. But, any sleepers or dark horses coming out of the group of 5 that could make the push to be the highest ranked team and get that automatic qualifier in the playoff?
I'm still
one of them's playing Alabama this weekend for me.
Yeah, they're are definitely a dark horse for me. I'm not as high on them as you are, but I am high on them. I like Alex Golish and the Bulls down at USF a lot.
Tampa.
But there's
they're in Orlando.
No, they're in Tampa.
Tampa.
UCF's
in Orlando.
Yep. I'm fairly high on Memphis and Tulane in the conference, but they're not really dark horses.
Yeah.
I'm
I know
trying to
Boise
think.
State's a team a lot of people talk about.
Yeah.
Texas State's another one.
They did not
another
look
team
great,
from the Mountain West. UNLV.
Oh, I love UNLV.
UNLV.
I've been high on UNLV, and I don't even think they're a dark horse. Honestly, I think at this point,
I think UNLV.
It could be their conference to lose.
A legit shot.
UNLV is very fun. Them and Boise State, if they match up in the Mountain West championship game, that game could easily beat it for a playoff spot.
It could be for the 12th spot.
But I'm trying to think.
I know Liberty's a favorite, so I'm not going to say it.
And I thought Jacksonville State was going to be something that they
not
looked
any good.
They looked terrible. Western Kentucky didn't score a point against Alabama. Which I thought I had them.
I was
to
high
cover
on Bowling Green at the beginning of the season. I don't even know what they're doing.
I had Miami, Ohio in the MAC, but I think they were the betting favorite anyways.
Go look at the MAC. Bowling Green plays Penn State this year.
What you got? What's the chat saying?
Conversation in the chat now. It's great.
Nice.
Well, that sounds like a good place to wrap it up. Unless I assume Zach's asked the last 2 questions.
So
last
one.
The last one.
You want to talk about
that was a good question.
You want to talk about a high ceiling, a team that has a very favorable schedule. It doesn't play any of the top dogs in the Big Ten. The Rutgers Scarlet Knights are a huge, just random high ceiling football team.
Yeah,
they don't play any of the big players in the Big Ten. Like, let's see, let's do a deep dive through Rutgers.
I know they end the year with Michigan State.
They looked really good against Howard, which Howard, but still, they're at home against Akron this week. Then they're at Virginia, then they get a bye week. Then they're at Virginia Tech, who hasn't shown us anything redeeming whatsoever through one game, at Vanderbilt. Home against Washington. I'm not high on Washington this year. I think they'll be fine, but I'm kind of high on Rutgers. At Nebraska is going to be tough. Home against Wisconsin, I feel like that's probably a win. The Rutgers environment showed out for the Howard game, and if they put wins together, that's going to be a rocking place. UCLA.
Chat seems to like that.
UCLA at home, that's a win for Rutgers. At USC, that's
a tough game.
But then home against Minnesota, the only team in week 1 to not win a game in the Big Ten. So they stink. At Maryland, that's not
That's
that
a
far of
winnable
a
game.
trip, and
Yeah.
that's a winnable game. That'll be a fun game, I think, too.
Illinois is a winnable
home against
game.
Illinois, that's definitely winnable. And then you finish the season at Michigan State, who stinks.
Yeah.
There's nothing redeeming about the Spartans at all this year. You're a Spartans guy.
I do like Sparty.
I don't think you're really gonna disagree with me there.
No, they did not look good against FAU.
Rutgers could have a 9-win season.
Yeah.
Rutgers could easily be playing in a very decent bowl game by the end of the season, and people are gonna. I think by like week 7 or 8, people are gonna be freaking out about where did Rutgers come from.
Yeah.
When I told you right here, right now.
Yeah. We're sitting here about at 90 minutes.
85.
I think it's probably a decent spot to wrap it up.
Probably so.
Chat's got anything else waiting in the wings?
We'll take whatever questions or comments y'all got.
I'll do a little wrap up. Give the chat a couple seconds to catch up.
Yeah.
Like we said at the top of the show, thanks for tuning in to the Down East Sports Network. We're working on getting more content out, working on graphics and things like that. We'll have our picks out actually beforehand this week.
Yep.
We'll have probably the top 12 out to you either Friday afternoon or Saturday morning.
Yeah, before the slate starts on
Yeah.
Saturday, we'll have that out. Hopefully tomorrow, but we'll see.
Like if you're on Twitter, retweet, give us a follow, tell a friend, tell your dog, tell your cat, tell your neighbor. If you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, like and subscribe, man. That's all we can really ask for. Just grow the brand. If there's things you'd like to see us talk about, feel free to put it in the chat. Feel free to tweet at our personal accounts.
Tweet at us, DM us, whatever topics you want us to cover, we'd be happy to, as long as we feel like we'd have enough knowledge to talk about it. So, but yeah, if y'all have any ideas whatsoever, whether it's in the chat now or randomly during a Monday morning, whatever.
Which I know there's Thursday night football, so we appreciate you guys hanging out with us, even a little bit before the game and here into the first quarter. But we'll let everyone tune in to the Ravens and the Chiefs. Thank you again. This is week 2 from the Down East Sports Network. We'll see you live at 8:00 next Thursday for week 3. A little bit better of a slate, not much, but we're getting into the meat.
We're getting
into the meat. I'm ready for week 5, but we will see y'all next Thursday at 8:00. Take care.